for the development of the atomic bomb. So we had this going on within our own country to develop a weapon that would destroy a lot in a little time. President Harry Truman, who was president after Roosevelt, decided to drop the new atomic bomb after heavy bombing of several Japanese cities. So instead of continuing to drop little bombs, why don't we drop a big one if we're already coming up with it? Emperor Hirohito, who's the leader of Japan, was given an ultimatum prior to the bomb dropping. An ultimatum is basically do this or else. So in this case, listen to us, do as we say, stop fighting against us, or we're dropping this bomb. This has been the only use of nuclear weapons in history, and we've talked about that before. But several countries have the capability to make nuclear weapons. They have them. And this isn't something that is necessarily considered an accomplishment by the United States and more of a shameful act, according to some. On August 6, 1945, the first atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan, completely destroying that area in a matter of seconds. 3 days later, on August 9th, the United States dropped a second atomic bomb on Nagasaki, Japan. By the end of 1945, 220,000 had died due to atomic bomb attacks. And these aren't just soldiers in the military. This is one of the first times where civilians are really caught in the line of fire and wiped out. And the atomic bombs are going to cause mass trauma for years and years and years due to the radiation. So let's look at some of the effects of the bombings. Effects on humans is that they suffered severe burns, blindness, injury from exploding material, fatigue, vomiting. It also caused cancers like leukemia on later generations. Here are some pictures of burn victims. It also affected the land, completely destroying buildings, also causing some natural components like massive winds. Due to the bombings, it's going to take Japan a very long time to recover economically, and its people are going to suffer for decades. The war in Europe officially ended on May 8th, 1945. This is known as VE Day or Victory in Europe Day. And the war in Japan is going to end a little bit later, known as VJ Day or Victory in Japan Day. So the Allied forces are going to win on both accounts, but the war is somewhat separate, Japan and Europe. So they do end in two different parts. So the Allied powers are going to form the United Nations, which is going to replace the League of Nations. This is the impact of the war. Europe is also going to be divided by what we call the Iron Curtain. Eastern European countries are going to be considered communist, while the Western are more democratic. So this is going to go through Germany with a wall, the Berlin Wall, that's going to separate the two. This is going to cause continued tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, which is going to begin the Cold War, which is our next unit. So I did mention the United Nations, and they revamped it so that they could prevent things like the Holocaust. They could really put into action, have a military that could enforce these laws and really take over where the League of Nations lacked. The U.S. also saw an economic recovery as a result of their methods to get behind the war effort and really push them through the Great Depression by providing more jobs, the rationing, causing people to save and spend less. So World War II had a widespread impact on the rest of the world. It is going to lead into further conflict with the Cold War, but we haven't seen a world war since then. And the United Nations, by many, is considered to be a fairly effective way to combat failures of peace amongst the world.